Hello everyone, I'm your very own author Archana Ramakrishna. So I'm here with the second round of Q&A round. Shall we begin? So coming to the second question. Where did you pick up the idea of such toxic parenting? Were your parents abusive? Yes, I did face a question from one of my relatives. So she was touched by the part where Bhumika is being beaten up by her father over silly things. The way she has been restricted by her father to wear good clothes, or she's not allowed a mobile phone, laptop. The very basic facilities that we girls have nowadays, she lacked it. So one of them asked me, how did I pick up all these ideas from? Was there any personal experience involved in it, or was it somebody else's experience? So first I'll begin with the sort of parenting I had while I grew up with my parents. My parenting was not at all abusive. My parents were open-minded, so I got all my basic rights: food, shelter, clothing, education, a good and a protected life. So how did my parents discipline me, considering the fact that I was a stubborn girl? My father did not believe in the pocket money system. So he maintained a diary wherein he would credit us some money if we do a good deed or score good marks in our tests, exams, or if we behave well at home, or and when we obey our mother's instructions. So he would credit like 5 rupees, 10 rupees for whatever task we have undertaken. And suppose if we misbehaved with him or mummy, or we did not score as per his expectations, he would simply debit the same money he would have credited long back. So that was his way of disciplining us. And it was never like an easy thing for us to get money from him. To get money, we had to do something to prove that yes, we deserve this money. We had to undertake a task, do a good deed. So this was his way of disciplining. And apart from a few scoldings here and there and thappads, I don't remember having any negative experience of my childhood. If this is not my experience, where did I pick up the particular experience for my storyline? There were many such incidents that happened around me, or maybe with my friends and in front of me while I grew up. So I remember one particular incident when I was in 7th or 8th standard, maybe. We had a neighbor upstairs, and whenever they had a fight at home or the mother is hitting the child, all of us would once come out to check, because the child's roar used to be so loud. The child used to cry out so loud. The child was of my age, or maybe 1 or 2 years younger to me, and he used to be beaten black and blue. So I imagined that she used belt, chappal, and Balan to hit the child. But the cries of the child used to be such that he's being tortured by his parents inside the house, and it used to be overwhelming at times when we used to come out to our balcony to overhear what was happening. So one fine day, what happened was, all of us, we were playing inside the children's park, and his mother happened to pop up, and she picked up a silly issue to hit on him. That was when I saw him actually being hit by his mother. She used punches. She kicked her child. The child rolled over the ground. And I have been a witness to such an incident. And I would term this as toxic parenting. You're venturing out your frustration, your past bad experiences on the poor child that only knows to trust you and love you. So I picked up the toxic parenting part where Bhumika is being hit by her father by this particular incident. And yes, coming to the second instance which I picked was when I was 17 or so. I was preparing for my 12th boards, and I had a friend. She used to do combined studies with me, and she was not as privileged as I was, because she used to work as a housemaid in a couple of houses, and then she used to come over to my place for studying, because her parents' economical conditions were not as good as us. So I thought that I will help her out with studies, and both of us decided to do combined studies since we had the same subjects in our 12th boards. Our studies were going on pretty good and smoothly, but one fine day she did not come. I waited for her. I tried to call her, but she wouldn't pick my call. So she did not turn up to my place for another 2 3 days. And I did not know why she was being so ignorant. I wondered whether she dropped the idea of preparing for her boards. Then I went down to my father's senior's place where she worked, and I learned from uncle that she's at the hospital and her mother is not well, and she has admitted her mother at the hospital. Okay, so I thought I'll try to contact her once her mother is back home, hale and hearty. So it so happened that after a week's gap, she came to my place for studying, and I happened to ask regarding her mother's health. And it was then I got to know that her father, who is a hardcore alcoholic, he hit his wife, that is her mother, and he attacked her mother with a brick on her foot and ended up breaking the bone of her toes. I had never heard such things. Maybe I would have heard such things in news channels, but around me, I had never heard something of that sort happen to a friend or family, because our society as such, where we are educated and we don't get to hear such abusive incidents. And it so happened that her father even hit her, but she escaped by God's grace. So this was one such incident that shook me. I went to her house to have a look at her mother, and her mother was inside the kitchen. She was cooking, settled on the floor with a heavily plastered food, and there laid her father unconscious, all drunk over the cot. I was horrified. It was my first such incident where I witnessed something such. I'd never seen a drunkard unconscious inside the house. I might have seen a couple of guys who would have passed out on the roads near the sewage, gutter, etc., but never inside the house. So it had shaken me up to such an extent. It forced me to think that I am privileged. In fact, so many of us are privileged. That poor friend of mine did not have the same privilege as me. She had to work for her education. She had to work for her college fees. Unlike me, whether I studied or not studied, I got good education. I got into good schools, good colleges. Unlike her, she studied in government schools, government colleges, whatever she could afford. So for once, I felt thankful for my parents, for the way I have been brought up, for the protective childhood that they offered. And nowadays on social media, there are so many memes floating on our parents. Like, I'm a 90s kid. Hopefully, most of you would relate to this, where you're making a meme on your parents, where they are being very rude to you, they have slapped you, they have hit you. But when it comes to their grandchild, that is your son or daughter, they are the fairy for them, fairy godmother, and they would not let you harm them. So there have been many memes. So I was wondering, why would a parent that used to be so strict with us changes all of a sudden once he or she has a grandchild? So I went back to the past of my parents, my aunt, my uncle, and I tried to understand how they were brought up. See, for us, food, shelter, clothing, education, they were our primary needs of our generation. Unlike our parents' generation, where they just offered food, shelter. Clothing came from the elder child because they did not have one or two. They had 8 to 10 children at that point of time. So they did not bother to buy clothes for the children that were born at a later stage, like for the 8th child or the 10th child. They might as well use the clothes of the eldest one. So that's how our parents, most of our parents have been brought up, where they were not even offered good, decent education. If they have studied till 8th standard, well and good, she knows to read. If they have studied till 10th or 12th, oh, she is highly educated. So that used to be the way. And if you hear the way they used to be abused by their parents, they used to grind green chilies inside their mouth. I've heard my aunts, my uncle, my distant relatives explaining how exactly their parents used to treat, but they never took it to their heart, unlike the way we take it to our heart. We should try to forget what our parents did, because they have tried to give us the best of what they could. They did not want to repeat the toxic past which they had faced. They did not have education. They chose to give us the best education possible in their capacity. So I feel we should be thankful for our parents for whatever we are today, for whatever they could give at that point of time. Because during 1990s, the budget used to be tight for every Indian household, at least for every middle class Indian household. People used to think 100 times before buying a pressure cooker because it was so expensive. It used to disbalance their monthly budget. Our parents did not want to repeat the toxicity that they were subjected to. They tried to make our life better. And so are we trying. If you're a mother or a father, you would definitely try to make your child's life better. Now we have another word added: food, shelter, clothing, education, and psychological health. You care for your child's emotional needs and psychological needs. So that's how it is. Maybe when my son he grows up and he turns into a father, maybe another word would be added where in which area I would have lacked in bringing him up. So that's how it is. Parenting gets better and better with time, and it gets better from one generation to another. So we should be thankful to whatever we have. Thank you. And I request all of you to read my web novel Behind the Wheel on Wattpad, and please rate me there. Drop some comments and let me know your reviews. If you want me to answer to some of your doubts which you might have come across while you read my book, please let me know. I'll make another Q&A round. Thank you.